Salawat. Inshallah, we're going to recite Surah Rum. Ayats from 16 to 26. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَكَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا وَلِقَاءِ الْآخِرَةِ فَأُولَئِكَ فِي الْعَذَابِ الْمُحْضَرُونَ فَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ حِينَ تُمْسُونَ وَحِينَ تُصْبِحُونَ وله الحمد في السماوات والأرض وعشيا وحين تظهرون يخرج الحي من الميت ويخرج الميت من الحي ويحيي الأرض بعد موتها وكذلك تخرجون ومن آياته أن خلقكم من تراب ثم إذا أنتم بشر تنتشرون ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة إن في ذلك لآية لقوم يتفكرون ومن آياته خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف ألسنتكم وألوانكم إن في ذلك لآية للعالمين ومن آياته منامكم بالليل والنهار وابتغاؤكم من فضله إن في ذلك لآية لقوم يسمعون ومن آياته يريكم البرق خوفا وطمعا وينزل من السماء ماء فيحيي به الأرض بعد موتها إن في ذلك لآية لقوم يعقلون ومن آياته أن تقوم السماء والأرض بأمره ثم إذا دعاكم دعوة من الأرض إذا أنتم تخرجون وله من في السماوات والأرض كل له قانتون صلوات. And as to those who disbelieve and rejected our communications and the meeting of the hereafter, these shall be brought over to the chastisement. Therefore, glory be to Allah when you enter upon the time of the evening and when you enter upon the time of the morning. And to Him belongs praise in the heavens and the earth, and at nightfall and when you are at midday. He brings forth the living from the dead and brings forth the dead from the living and gives life to the earth after its death, and thus shall you be brought forth. And one of His signs is that He created you from dust, then lo, you are mortals who scatter. And one of His signs is that He created mates for you from yourselves, that you may find rest in them. And He put between you love and compassion. Most surely these are the signs in this for a people who reflect. And one of His signs is the creation of the heaven and the earth and the diversity of your tongues and colors. Most surely there are signs in this for the learned. And one of his signs is your sleeping and your seeking of his grace by night and by day. Most surely there are signs in this for a people who would hear. And one of his signs is that he shows you the lightning for fear and for hope, and sends down water from the clouds, then gives life therewith to the earth after its death. Most surely there are signs in this for a people who understand. And one of his signs is that the heaven and the earth subsist by his commands. Then when he calls you with a single call from out of the earth, lo, you come forth. And his is whosoever is in the heavens and the earth are all obedient to him. Sadaqallahu al-aliyyul azim. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you, Brother Matani, for that. Alhamdulillah, these are the last few nights of Ramadan. We have been blessed to have Sheikh Moulana Sayyid Abbas Razavian here with us from Qom. If I forget to say it in the next couple of nights, I'd like just to thank him for being with us for the second half of Ramadan. We've been blessed to have him here to give us his knowledge and to enjoy his lectures. Inshallah, we'd love to have him again in the future. So please, with that, give me a loud salawat and invite him up. Salawat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى يوم الدين. Guidance is the greatest gift that God can give us. Guidance is what we've been talking about in this holy month of Ramadan, and sadly, it is departing us. And it is still not too late for those that want to get God's forgiveness, those that want and seek God's bounty, and want to get his satisfaction. These few nights are enough. If we respect these few nights and we turn to ourselves and we turn to Allah and ask him sincerely to give us of the greatest blessings of the month of Ramadan, which one of those is guidance and hidayat, because guidance has levels. And we want to increase our level of guidance. We talked about the factors of guidance. We talked about one of the great barriers of guidance. And we said from these factors of guidance, actions plays a very important role in keeping us guided and pushing us towards more guidance. Last night we talked about one of the actions that we can do that is critical for us to keep our guidance and increase it, and that was about respecting our parents. We said if you want the world, if you want the hereafter, we should respect our parents and be kind to them and be dutiful to them. Another thing that when we look at our traditions, and in the traditions it has that if a person prays 2 units of prayer that is married compared to somebody who isn't, it's 70 times worth more, this tradition from Imam Sadiq. And unfortunately, when we approach religion, we think that when we want to connect with God, it's only about looking at His, trying to talk to Him, crying and fasting and acts of worship. But we're neglectful of one of the great factors of guidance, which is in the household. That is, maybe if you look at these narrations, I'm being serious, maybe if we look at these narrations, they might be worth more than ziyarat, than hajj, than sujood, than going to the masjid. But unfortunately, what's been taught in the Muslim world is that if you want to seek Allah, you should always perform these acts of worship. I'm not saying let's not do those, let's preserve those. But let's be balanced. And let's not forget and neglect our household, our spouses. And for those that are young and listening tonight, those that want to select somebody, let's make an intention that when we want to approach marriage, we do it for God, and we do it actually even for a higher intention. One of the highest intentions when we talk about worship is always, we said, what's the highest form of guidance and the most complete form of guidance? It is the guidance of your imam, the guidance of your leader, the guidance of the 12th imam. And if you make that intention before you start, you're looking for somebody, after you get married, before you have children, you make this intention that, Ya Imam al-Zaman, I couldn't be a good soldier for you. My actions are in such a way I'm not a good soldier for you, but let me produce for you and let me train for you soldiers and aiders and supporters that will help you come back and will help you when you come in uprise. So this is an intention that we should have, brothers and sisters. It's not we want to get married just for needs that are physical or whatever. Those are social needs, emotional needs. Yes, we all have these. But the highest intention is for guidance and for kamal and for us to reach Allah. And especially when we put this intention inside, I want to do this for the 12th Imam. Ajjalallahu ta'ala faraj salawat. I'm going to read to you a tradition about how important it is when you help each other, just to understand that approaching marriage is one of the greatest factors of guidance. It says, Imam Ali alayhi salam says in the tradition to his son, Isma' minni ya Abul Hasan. It says in this tradition, Imam Ali says, I will not tell you anything but what my Lord commands. God will establish the reward of as many years of fasting in the daytime and staying up at nighttime to pray as there are hairs on one's body for helping his wife with the housework. Alhamdulillah, as I said last time, I spoke about parents, and my dad wasn't here, so he would reject what I'm saying about being a good son. Well, my wife isn't here, so I can speak about being a good husband and being a perfect husband, because now she's not here to actually, testify to the opposite. So if you want to, each hair, it says, and alhamdulillah, a lot of the mu'mineen have a lot of hair. So each hair that we have, if it equals 1 year of worshiping God, 1 year of fasting, 1 night of praying, we've been fasting for 30 days. And at the end, we're seeing it's not easy, but it's a great blessing. 1 year of worship, 1 year of praying for just helping out in the house with my wife. The problem is, as I said to Shaykh Mutahari, he says that we're not complete. We're not focusing on all aspects of religion. It is like a cartoon that has big ears or big nose or big chin. Sometimes we focus too much on ibadat, and we're not realizing that there is a ibadat, an active worship that is just sitting there. Each time I come home and I help my wife, or each time I come home and the wife helps her husband with the intention of God, with the intention to become complete, with the intention to become perfect, it is helping them out is like worshiping God for an entire year. Each hair that you have is like 1 year. So if you have 100,000 hairs, 100,000 years of worship. Then it goes higher. It says this: the reward will be similar to what he has granted to the patient ones and to Prophet David and Yaqub and Jesus. These are Shahid Salawat. Do you want to get the rewards of the prophets? We always think it's by doing these tremendous acts. It's right in front of us every day when we go home. Or it's right in front of us when later on, inshallah, when we choose to get married. So let's talk about this important concept, which is how we treat each other at home. And this is, for one thing, a great test for us. Because a lot of people, before they're married, they don't see their vices. They think they're good, they're complete, and we have hubb nafs, we love ourselves, so we don't want to examine ourselves and find any vices or find any faults. But once we get married and you live with somebody day and night, months, years, you notice in yourself, you get tested. Because your wife might tell you something, your husband might tell the wife something, you might be in the middle of something and you don't want to get interrupted, and a fight might break out, right? You're being tested by those vices that you have inside you, those traits that you have inside you. You're being examined with them. You're saying now, okay, these are the areas that I am weak, and these are the areas that I need to work on. And a lot of times, and those that are married testify this, I didn't know my weaknesses before marriage. So marriage is a very good opportunity for us to notice the weaknesses we have inside. And I don't necessarily agree that that person is always making you a bad person. You are discovering what's inside of you a lot of times. True, people can make you bad, but many times when you're tested and people are tested, they see their vices then. When everything is perfect, the temperature is perfect, you're fed, you're in the shade, you're not going to have bad akhlaq. It's when you're tested as with your life partner, you might have poverty. You might have to make a decision, should I go to this person's house? Should I not? I hate that person, but my wife likes their wife, but do I have to go? I'm saying, for example, right? So marriage is a test of your nafs. Didn't we say al-Islam huwa taslim? Islam is submission. Isn't Islam about conditioning the nafs? Isn't one of the greatest barriers of guidance our nafs? And it's not allowing us to reach for higher goals. So when you approach marriage as a procedure or a way for us to train against our nafs, we can make it very, very fruitful for ourselves. And we can notice that every time that I mention narrations about those that have patience and those that are calm, what kind of reward God will give to them. Because in marriage there will be situations of poverty, maybe, God forbid disease, situations where you don't like, places you don't even want to go. And then you'll notice that after this, when you truly do this for God, you'll notice that your ubudiyat and being a slave of God and fighting against your nafs will be much higher. And you will be a much more stronger person. Because we said the goal of life, and we said God guides us to Himself and to the path. The path is the path of being a servant of God. This is higher than the ziyarats, this is higher than salat itself. This is, the entire purpose is for you to submit to God. Sometimes your tests right now, is not the test of how much you could pray. Sometimes your test is just to be quiet and not respond or go to another room, for example. Sometimes your test is to be humble. And when you raise children, your test is you might be a great alim, but now you have to clean diapers of children. That's your test now. It's not necessarily about wearing a huge amame or wearing an Abbas and putting, atr and perfume, right? It's about being a servant of God. And God wants us in many different dimensions to be tested and to submit to His will. And what He wants from us is good akhlaq to our family members. Please give a salawat. We have two types of husbands and wives. When you look at the narration in Al-Kafi, there are those husbands that it's all about them and their nafs and their desires. And whenever they want to eat something, whenever it comes to, for example, dinner or lunch, the entire family has to go around with this guy, what Hajaga wants at home, right? It says in the narrations, Al-Mu'min يأكل بشهوة أهله والمنافق يأكل بأهله بشهوته. A true believer, whatever his family wants, he eats, or whatever they desire, he desires the same thing, or he accepts the same thing. A true believer. But a hypocrite, he forces everybody to change their desires or whatever they want into him. Right? And that is, we're talking about a sign of iman and a sign of nifaq when it comes to our desires at home. So if we don't control ourselves according to this tradition, we don't control our nafs when it comes to marriage, to the household, we will be a munafiq, we will be hypocrite. We won't be a true believer. Many people, when it comes to especially the youth that aren't married, they say that they want to encourage them, even though we have so many narrations about marrying when you're young. We're going to talk about some of the criteria for spouse selection. But not necessarily should we always tell the youth that marriage is going to be so beautiful, you're going to be, every day you're going to be in love and you're going to write love letters to each other. And we should also tell them it's difficult. That's the problem. When you're not realistic, they come and they're like, oh, I thought it was so sweet. How come this happened to me? Or how come this is happening? We say, that's normal. As one of the scholars say, it's a bad example. And I know, but it's this, for example, we're not like sheep living amongst each other. We're humans. You might say something, they might say something, So we should tell them that, yes, there might be hardship. Inshallah, there's not. It will be all love letters, inshallah. Maybe it is like that. But that's not something bad. That's something that God is testing you with. That's something that you should look at as a rahmat and a mercy. And I'll explain, inshallah, if there's time, some of our scholars that had that patience, that having patience with their spouse caused them to get very high positions in religion and spirituality. So we could look at that as an opportunity to make ourselves more humble, to make ourselves more as a slave, because a servant of God is a servant in all aspects of life and all the time. Not a servant just when it comes to the sajjada or the prayer, right? So we're training 24/7 to say, God, this is your will, and you want me to submit to your will, and I'm going to be, dealing with these problems that I have. Let's give another salawat. When it comes to spouse selection, I'll say this briefly, and then we'll talk about a little bit of the roles of the husband and the family, and also the wife. We should, first of all, have a pure intention. Everything you want to do, it's from the beginning, that niyat that you have. And according to the tradition, some people, they marry somebody just, and I'm just saying just because of their wealth, just maybe because of their social status, just because of their beauty. Even though we believe that you should be similar, it's good to be similar in your maybe your even in your economic situation, in your background, just so you match up better. You don't have to, but it's better. But there are people that marry somebody just because they're from a rich family, maybe because they're from a very educated family, and they're either not interested in that person, and also they're not looking at their spirituality of that person. And families are like that. When a proposer comes and he's from this university and has this job, okay. But this poor brother from the masjid that's been coming every night to the programs in the month of Ramadan, I'm just saying. And even though in the traditions, if you look at the Risala, it says it's discouraged to marry your daughter off to somebody that's not part of the masjid, that's not part of the community, I'm saying. So this poor brother comes, even though he's trying hard, and no, because this guy, and he doesn't pray at all, he doesn't, abide by the rulings of, because he is from this university or this job, we give away our daughters to them. Look at the traditions. It says, the Prophet says, he who marries a woman solely, it says, just because of her beauty, will not find anything he likes in her. That beauty will work against him. He who marries her for her wealth will be deprived of it as soon as he marries her. So look to marry a woman of faith. So the most important intention we have is, I have this intention, I want to make a family, a house that will be full of light. I want to make a family, as some of the narrations say, just as we look at the stars we look at the stars and we see the light, the angels look to earth and see lights and stars, and those are homes that are full of tranquility, full of light, full of the recitation of Quran. We want to make our homes shine like a star. And it's with that intention, choosing somebody with that intention. Side note, sometimes what happens is we marry somebody, we have a spouse that either when we married we weren't thinking about their spirituality, and now it's, they're on their own path. For such people, I would say this, that doesn't prevent you from performing your own spiritual acts. Sometimes we think if we don't have a wife, or a wife doesn't have a husband that doesn't wake up, say, for Salatul Layl or the night prayer, then we shouldn't be able, then we can't pray it, because she will help us wake up for Salatul Layl. No, we can wake up and pray and recite Quran, even if later on, if this happens that we end up choosing somebody, or somebody becomes less spiritual than we thought to, we have our own responsibilities to ourselves. So the first thing is the intention and piety. In another tradition, Imam Hassan alayhi salam says to a man who came to ask his advice about getting his daughter married, said, marry her to a pious man, for if he loves her, he will honor her, and if he comes to dislike her, he will not be unjust towards her. So, and this is a famous tradition you've probably heard. If a person is pious and it doesn't work out, at least he has limits. At least he fears God. Right? So, we're going to talk a little bit about this family. What are the characteristics of a good family, a quality family in the Holy Quran? One of the verses in the Holy Quran has 3 characteristics that we can have that we should strive for. These 3 characteristics is tranquility, mawaddat, which is love, and the third is rahmah. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ, right? It says the ayah is this, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, so you can live amongst them, you can have tranquility, you can have peace. One of my friends, he was looking for a wife, he was saying, I want a wife that's like a painkiller for me. So when I go home, all my problems are removed. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً, so that I can have, and then the verse says, mawaddat, love, and rahmah, and mercy to each other. When you say tranquility, it means basically that when you are home, you need to be calm. You need to provide a calm and quiet environment for yourselves. And if God gives you the blessings to have children, for your children to grow, you need peace and tranquility. Obviously, it can't be a war zone. If it's a war zone, then things aren't going to obviously work right. Mawaddatan is love, and that is the love that exists between each other. And the third is mercy, having mercy towards each other. There's a tradition that says, whoever bears his wife, even if it is just one bad word from God, God will save them from the fire. Whoever takes one curse or one bad word from her, right, if she is upset with you, and also possibly for others, and you deal with this, it is as if God will give you forgiveness and mercy. One of our great scholars, by the name of Ayatollah Sayyid Ahmad Khan Sari, he was a mujtahid, he was a scholar, a jurist. When they needed Tehran, the Bazaar of Tehran needed a scholar, they came to the great Marja Taqlid Ayatollah Burujerdi. They said, we need somebody for Tehran, the capital of Iran. So he gave him Ayatollah Sayyid Ahmad Khan Sari, who was a Marja Taqlid himself. He was a mujtahid himself. Maybe he was in Marja back then. He came, and he is one of those, and if you read about his biography, it's one of those biographies that you will be amazed about how he lived and how he worshipped. And one of the things about his life that always amazes me when I read or hear about is the fact that he had a wife, they say, that caused a lot of trouble for him. A lot of trouble, more than you can imagine. Like when he wanted to give Dars Kharij, which is the highest lessons, she would wait outside the door and try to prevent people from attending his classes and say, don't enter the classes of this hypocrite. He's a hypocrite. Don't come in and study with him. She obviously had psychological problems, but he was very, very peaceful with her. I'm not saying that we all have to be like Ayatollah Sayyid Ahmad Khan Sari, but he would say this. Everyone would say, divorce her. You're just going to go crazy. Divorce her. Get rid of her. And he would say, if I divorce her, where is she going to go? And he felt sorry for her. He said, where is she going to go? They say once they came, somebody who visited Ayatollah Ahmad Khan Sari, he was there. He's very humble and very, very pious. He went upstairs and came back. He went upstairs and they heard something like hitting each other, yelling arguments, and he came back down very humbly and was talking, and he noticed this part of his head was bleeding. That is, his wife ended up hitting him. So such a person with such patience, and bringing out that ubudiyat, that whatever your tests, you might have difficult tests in life, and a bad wife is a very difficult test, a bad husband is a very difficult test. But those that have that willpower and those that Allah helps for them to cope with such problems, and when you fight, especially against your nafs, it increases you in spirituality, it increases you. There's another story about, I don't know how true this is. This might be a fairy tale, but it's an interesting story. They say they came to visit this one mystic person, and they went to ask for him, and then they ended up, he knocked at the door of his house, and his wife was there. And the wife, once this guy came, he's like, why do you want to talk to my husband? He's a hypocrite, he's an unbeliever, he's just started saying all these things. Why are you interested in him? He's a nobody. Then he sees him, and it might be even a fairy tale, but they saw him riding a lion, the same person. And he's riding a lion, they say in this story, and he asks him, what's up, what's going on with your wife? Why is she doing that? He said, actually, I do a lot of dua from her. All these karamats and blessings from Allah, he's riding a lion, is because of my patience with my wife. Because it was a great test from God, and I'm patient, and now I'm riding a lion. So I'm saying these are ways, if you want to become like Ayatollah Bahjat, or like these Urafams, any test that we have from God. Because what I said, when we say that our actions guide us, sacrifices, especially those actions that are sacrifice. You sacrifice yourself for that person because of God. And you give away all your anger, you swallow your anger, all your emotions, and you completely come as a humble servant of God. And that person will take you towards Allah more than maybe any other person can. So anyways, so these are, I'm not saying again now to encourage, and when we're going to look for those that are not married, to look for someone that has bad akhlaq, no. But I'm saying is, especially today, in the way that we live life, because we're so used to comfort, right? We're so used to air conditioning, and if it's above like 75, we get hot. If it's below 73, we get cold, right? So in such a day, we are actually very weak. We're actually very spoiled. So when we get married, we don't really like the fact that somebody's telling us what to do, or somebody's doing things that we don't like, or taking us places we don't like. Imagine some people, they don't like to go with their in-laws. They're taking us to a place where we don't necessarily might not like, right? So in such a society, in such a culture, in such a time period, it's important for us to know these things, that, you know, having patience and fighting against your nafs, especially when it comes to our spouse at home, is actually increasing us in spirituality. And it is making us grow, because you're here for 70, 80 years for a purpose. And you're supposed to reach this spirituality, and that is, if God gives you 70, 80 years, or 50, 40 years, in that time period. And He wants you to become complete. I'm going to read about some of the roles that men have in marriage, and some of the women. Please give a salawat. Tuhaf al-Uqul is a beautiful book. It's translated in English. This advice is from Tuhaf al-Uqul, from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. He has 3 things, basically, that he says for the husband. One is وَهِيَ al-muwafiqah, that he adapts to her. The husband should adapt to the wife, so that he can gain her compliance, her love, and her desire. When she wants something at home, especially, he should be flexible. He should lead. I'm not saying not to lead, but at the same time, adapt and be flexible. I remember seeing people fight, and sometimes you see the husband wants to take control of everything in the house. Even the decorations, you know, they were fighting, husband and wife were fighting over, should I get a round table or should I get like a rectangle table? And the wife wanted a rectangle table, but the husband went and bought a round table. And there was just going on and on and on. It says our imams would wear certain colors, maybe pink or red, or a color that because the wife liked it, he would wear it, right? For muwafiqah, so that he could adapt and be flexible to her. She wants you to wear this clothes, okay. Listen, you know, it's fine. She likes it, wear it. She wants the house to be this way, it's fine. Be flexible. The second thing is, of course, وَحُسْنَ خُلْقِهِ, and morality should use good demeanor as a means of gaining their love. حُسْنَ خُلْق مَلْعُونٌ مَنْ ضَيَّعَ مَنْ يَعُولُ. The narration says, cursed is cursed a person who destroys who he marries, with their akhlaq, with their bad akhlaq. خَيْرَكُمْ لَأَهْلِ, this famous tradition. The best of you is those that is the best with their household. وَأَنَا خَيْرَكُمْ لَأَهْلِ. The narration is from the Prophet, says, I am the best to my family members, to my wife. The third, تَوْسَعَتُهُ عَلَيْهَا, and should improve her livelihood. He should strive, and that to make his wife live in a comfortable. She shouldn't always worry about money. And to see, there are certain times where we have a limited rizq, and that's from Allah. Whatever we work for, we can. But then there's a certain time that we're not going and we're not working those extra hours that we should have, that we could, to live a more comfortable life. And you're making your family and children suffer because we want to be lazy. As how in Nahj al-Balagha says, ar-rizq rizqan, there are two types of rizqs. One, I go out and get it, and the other is that it comes and seeks me and finds it. I'm talking about the rizq or provisions that I go and get. If I'm going to be lazy, if I'm not going to study hard, if I can't provide for that part that's up to me, it's going to cause problems in the house. So these three things for the men. One is to be flexible, adapt to them. Two is morality and good action, good behavior. And the three is to improve their livelihood. For the woman, in the same narration, it says, they should guard themselves against any dirty actions so that they can win their husband's confidence in good and bad situations. They should protect themselves. They should be careful of themselves. Second, should take care of their husbands in a way to save them from any fault. The third, they should show love to them through, for example, in good appearance. So the three things for the woman is that they should guard themselves, be careful of themselves. The second, they should take care of them. They should help them. When he comes back from work, or even if she has a job and he comes back, you care for him, you provide for him. If he's sick, you take care of him. And the third is that she should have good appearance, it says in this end of the narration. She should make herself in a way that it's pleasant for him to look, to see her. In one of the books of history, there was this person that did recited Arabic prose and was author of literature by the name of Jahiz. Jahiz not necessarily was a follower of the Ahlul Bayt, but he says the statement from one of the Imams, from Muhammad ibn Ali ibn al-Husayn, salawatullah alayhi. Talks about this, and this is the last thing I'll finish tonight with, from Manaqib al Abi Talib. It says that Salahu hal dunya bihadafiriha fi kalimatayn. Two words from Imam Sajjad, from Imam Baqir alayhi salam, is going to be the good of the world. It can be summed up in two words. At-ta'ashur, right? Mil'ul mikyal, thalatha fitnatu, wa thulthun taghafil. 2/3 being fitna, and 1/3 being taghaful. Fitna here is with the ta, not fitna with two dots. Fitna means cleverness. If you want to live good with people, he says these things. It's as if a cup, 2/3 of it is full of cleverness and being able to know how to talk to people, being smart, being intelligent, knowing what to say, knowing not to say. And the other third is taghaful. Taghaful means you put yourself and and purposely neglecting what they say. You're purposely forgetting what they say. You don't pay attention to it. So if we want to live in society, and especially when we want to live peacefully with our spouses, remember taghaful. 2/3 is cleverness, and 1/3 is taghaful. When they say something, pretend you never even heard it, right? Especially if there's something that they say and it upsets you, you pretend you never heard it. Or if the husband says something to the sister, to the wife, pretend you never heard it. This is how you will be able to live with humans, with cleverness 2/3 and 1/3 with, it's actually the opposite here. Taghaful, you're putting yourself, maybe you're doing ghaflat, you're neglecting. So that inshallah we can be good spouses, fathers, mothers, children. Please give a salawat. The nights of Ramadan, I mention a little bit usually of the stories of the Ahlul Bayt. And I do this for the reason that our teacher, our Mujtahid, he said, this is like the salt on food. He said, like the mimbar is food. You're giving instructions, or you're giving knowledge, or you're sharing stories. But every food needs to have salt. And when you mention the Ahlul Bayt, they are the salt on the majlis. So if we can dim the lights a little bit tonight, we will mention the story of Qasim ibn al-Hasan, the 14-year-old person in the battle of Karbala. 14-year-old son of Imam Hassan. As you know, he was an orphan because Imam Hassan alayhi salam had died about 10 years before, 10, 11 years before Karbala. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam, his uncle, raised him. Qasim ibn al-Hasan, when he came out to fight against the enemies of Imam Hussein, the enemies of his uncle, the enemies of his Imam, his leader, it says in Tabari, in different books, خَرَجَ إِلَيْنَا غُلَامٌ كَأَنَّ وَجْهَهُ شِقَّةُ الْقَمَرِ. His face was young like the first splinter of the new moon. Like a new moon, Qasim ibn Hassan came out to the battlefield. These are the people that were sacrificed on that day. Each and every one of them was a moon. Each and every one of them had a shining face with light, like Qamar Bani Hashim. And he carried a sword. He was wearing a shirt and an izar and a pair of sandals. There the Mala'un Ibn Sa'd ibn Nawfal came and says, let me attack him. Let me attack this boy, this 14-year-old. And says, praise be to Allah, some person. Why do you want to do that? Let him be. Leave him alone. He says, while even one of his family of Hussein remains, that will be enough to take vengeance for his death. But he insisted, no, by Allah, let me strike him. Let me attack him. So we do this tawassul, and especially we do this because it is the son of Imam Hassan. And all eyes will be crying at the day of judgment, as the narrations say, except those that cry for Hassan, and this is the son of Imam Hassan. So he rushed against him, and he did not turn back until he struck his head with the sword. And the young lad fell down, and he called out, Ya Amma. He called his uncle Abu Hussein. فَجَلَّ الْحُسَيْنَ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامُ كَمَا يُجَلِّ الصَّغَرِ. Just as how a hawk, a falcon comes, he came, Imam Hussein came, quickly doing away with Umar ibn Sa'd and Nawfal. He strikes him, Imam Hussein. He gives him a brief shriek of pain. And then Imam Hussein turns. He turns to basically his son, or the son of Imam Hassan, and says this to him. He says, first of all, بُعْدًا لِقَوْمٍ قَتَلُوكَ. May the people who have caused your death perish. Then he says to his nephew, by Allah it is hard. ثُمَّ قال على عمك أن تدعوه فلا يجيب علي عز والله على عمك أن تدعوه فلا يجيبك. It is difficult for your uncle to hear you cry, Qasim ibn al-Hasan, but I can't answer you. He's holding his nephew in his arms. This is the final breaths of Qasim ibn al-Hasan. أو يجيبك ثم لا ينفعك الصوت. Or that you answered, but your cry was too late to help you. وسيعلم الذين ينقلبوا أي منقلب ينقلبون وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. Ya Allah, we ask you, because of the honor of Imam Hassan alayhi salam and his son Qasim, may you, inshallah, give us the tawfiq of becoming good husbands and wives, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, our family members that have passed away, give them forgiveness, inshallah. It's the month of Ramadan. We ask you, there's a sick person, and for all the sick, may you, inshallah, cure them. Ya Allah, we ask you to expedite the return of the 12th Imam. Please give a salawat. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي. السلام عليك يا حسين بن علي. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي. السلام عليك يا موسى يا جعفر بن محمد. السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر. السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي. السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد. السلام عليك الحسن بن علي أيها العسكري. السلام عليك خلف الحجة الإمام الزمان عجل الله تعالى فرجك سهر الله مخرجك وجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يديك. صلوات.